Good day to everyone. I am so excited. I'm here with the wonderful Felicia Cocotzin Ruiz, who is a curandera, an author, and she's going to be speaking for us at the Herbalism Medical Astrology Summit. And she's going to be giving us a lecture on Sunday, November 9th, called Curanderismo and the Living Solar Cycle. So I'm so excited about that. And I'm excited to share more about Felicia and her background. So Felicia, welcome.
Hello.
And I can't tell you how excited I am to have you here. I've known of your work for a few years now. I also requested the two children's books at my local library so they could start ordering your books. And I requested it at another library to make sure that your books are being shown even to children. So I am just so thrilled to have you here. And I'm just going to kick off with the top of mind question that I know a lot of people have is, what is a curandera and what brought you to that path?
Mm-hmm. For starters, hello, good day. I think the path actually was already just finding me, and a lot of people I know that do this type of work also say similar things, that we weren't really actively seeking it. It kind of found us. But both of my grandmothers, my great grandmother, and I'm sure far back even further, our other grandmothers that did this type of work, working with herbs and earth medicines and spiritual work. I'm sure it's evolved and changed over time, but I really do love working with all of these beautiful medicines. I feel like I work with the past, the present, and the future all of the time.
Wonderful, wonderful. So I did a little bit of background because, as I mentioned, I had known of your work for a few years. I love seeing the recipes that you shared. A lot of them meant to nourish your system. A lot of them also meant to connect with your ancestors. And I know that you have been initiated as a curandera, but you've been on the healing path for a while, right? You studied nutrition. You studied aromatherapy. I could totally see you as a yoga nidra instructor because you have such a soothing voice. So it's almost like you've been called to this for a while. What's like the earliest memory that you have of being called into the wellness space?
I would say that this type of practice that I offer, it's not like a formal training. I feel like it's still really old school in that we learn from a lot of elders and healers and teachers in that way. However, I would say it was when I was 20, I think I was 22 was when I started massage therapy school. And that was, over 30 years ago. And I feel that really opened my eyes to the possibility that this could be something that I could make into, and I don't like to say it this way, but almost like my job or my career. Like I was naturally inclined to putting my hands on people. And I understood early then that there was some type of energy exchange. So I would say as a very young teenager, like 13, 14, I already understood that something was happening with this, like plant wisdom and plant magic or just herbalism. I was really interested in all of those things as a very young person, but it wasn't until I started school I think I was 22 years old, that really it opened a portal for me to understand how just my hands could tap into someone's energy. And then it was from there that I really started implementing like the plants and having the teas and studying with different teachers, really fine-tuning my intuition, which we're always still learning. I feel like I'm still expanding, but now I have decades of working with people and really fine-tuning so much that I've just put into practice over the years.
I love how when you share your wisdom, when you share some of the tips, you really break it down, because from your bio, I can see that you kind of grew up around this. And it was normal to you. So now when you're putting it out into the world, you're having to break it down and simplify it for people who have never even been introduced to some of these concepts. So what's that been like for you? Like, have you had any challenges in kind of translating the core messages as you're doing your work to folks who maybe have not grown up around curandismo and what that is?
Yes, so when people come to see me, I'm always I love deep listening and hearing people's stories. And it's always funny to me when people say, well, I didn't grow up with curanderismo, but my grandma used to, whack me with herbs and like do these things, but she wasn't a curandera. And so I always laugh because I'm like, well, she may have not called herself that, but she was honoring these traditions that have been in our family for a long time, working with different plants and placing them in different places and working with those lunar and sun cycles, just all of these things that were kind of second nature, but maybe they weren't presented in the way that felt like this was like they were a curandera. But I hear that so many times with different people, not just people within my own culture, but other people who might say, well, I remember my grandma would do this, for let's just say on an equinox, but they weren't calling it the equinox. They were calling it something else. Or maybe it was for, just those changing of the seasons. Like, oh yeah, my grandma, it was always like this older person, this elder, or my mother, my auntie, someone would start making different foods around springtime, for our system. And I was like, well, that's part of like earth medicine, healing ways. That's ancient knowledge. So when I share it in that way, then they have these light bulb moments of like, that was, curanderismo, or that was healing. I'm like, yes.
Yes. And that's actually a great transition into, you just even accepting my invitation to come and teach for the summit, because I know that you're not an astrologer. However, you do incorporate the cosmic cycles as part of your practices. And so here we're teaching people that you can use astrology, even not being an astrologer, in order to help bring healing either to yourself or the people that you want to service or the collective. So do you want to tell us a little bit about your lecture with us, where you're going to be teaching about the solar cycle and curanderismo?
Yeah, I mean, I've given it some more thought, since the invitation, and I really chose the sun. And I'm not I won't be talking about like an 11-year solar cycle, but more of a daily solar cycle in that way, and just how I use it, how I've learned from others, other curanderas, curanderos, and just looking at my culture as an ancient culture from, central Mexico, but also my Pueblo side up here in the Southwest in New Mexico. So many beautiful ruins that people would call them now ruins, but I don't see them as ruins, but just our ancient and beautiful sacred sites that were in alignment with the different cycles of the sun and the moon, and just how it's played a role in how we see the world and our creation stories. And so in my day-to-day practice, when people come to see me, I might, and I'll share some of this in, I don't want to call it a lecture. I'm calling it a plática, conversation, because a lecture feels like I'm going to have some kind of board behind me, but it's really just the way that I love learning most, and that's by listening and asking questions. But, when people come to see me, I love to have water that's been infused with that beautiful golden sunlight of the morning, especially if I know if the person's really going through a hardship, to kind of like harness that optimism and that hope of the morning. So I work in many different ways with our sun, and sometimes that's just in the most humble way of singing and humming and just say thank you, thanking the sun. That really is an ancient way to give gratitude to the sun. And I know the sun is grandfather's sun. It's like we're giving it this energy because in return we're receiving its energy. And so that's just a little taste of how I'll be speaking. It's going to be more of a plática, a conversation versus a lecture.
I really love that. Because every time that you're mentioning it, I'm understanding it from a medical astrology standpoint. Because in medical astrology, the sun rules your vital force and it rules your heart. And so when we look at the sun, we're using different words about how important it is to our vitality, but it's really the same thing. And so I'm so glad that you're going to be sharing your perspective from the Mexican and Native American lens. And I think it's really important to showcase to everyone how different cultures approach things that have to do with the cosmic cycles and how to work with the natural rhythms for our best vitality, for wellness. So I'm really excited for your lecture. I'm honored that you said yes, that you wanted to come and teach for us. And I can't wait for folks to learn more about you and about just your teaching style and what you have to give to the world. And I just want to say thank you for doing your work.
Yeah, it's an honor. I feel as the giver and the space holder for people, it's really reciprocal. I feel just when people leave, it's really soul nourishing for me. So I love what I do. I'm sure so many people that are on this path as well. It's really soul nourishing.
So this has been an amazing interview. I am really looking forward to seeing your lecture with us, Felicia, and just so excited that you're here. You're going to be part of our great eight speakers. And I can't wait for our students to learn from you. So Felicia Cocotzin Ruiz, so that everyone can know how to pronounce it. You are amazing, and very happy equinox to you.